Alright guys, Skrapz here. Today I want to talk about the CWL Pro League divisions and the format as well for the Pro League, because the format is definitely something that maybe you guys aren't too familiar with, especially because it's very different from previous seasons, and it also has a couple of little quirks which we should be aware of. So thanks for Sonic for pointing them out to me a couple of days ago. And then I'll also go through the divisions. We always love here in Call of Duty talking about Pool of Death, Division of Death, whatever you want to call it. So we'll go through those in just a second, and I'll skim over them now. And then I want to just quickly, before we start, go through the format. So, like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, as always. And this is the format for the Pro League. So we have 12 weeks of action. And yeah, so let's scroll up. So these are the teams. There's two divisions, Division A, Division B, both with 8 teams. That's what we're going to be going through today. Each team plays 2 matches against their own division, which is what we've seen in the past. They play one set of matches for like 2 weeks, then they go home, the other division comes out, plays their set of matches for 2 weeks, and then they do it all again later in the stage. However, this season we only have one stage for the entire season. So that 12-week stage is just everything. All the matches take place there. So there's actually less matches this year than there was last year. But to make up for that, we do now have a match against the other division. So there is a period of weeks where the players, and we're not exactly sure yet, I don't think, when this will be in terms of throughout the season, but there will be cross-divisional play. So they will actually get to play every team through the Pro League, which I guess is a cool addition. Now, the real change here is that the top 4 teams in each division advance to the playoffs, which is what we've typically seen. If you come top 4, you go to playoffs. You come bottom 4, you miss out. Now, they have changed things to make sure there are still some incentives to win, because what we would see in the past is a team like Epsilon, maybe a team like Vitality, they're down there at like 1 in 10 or something. They have no chance to qualify for the league. They basically have no incentive to do well, so they end up going like 1 in 13 or whatever. So the difference this year is that we have prizes for each match win. So if you win a match, you get a monetary bonus. There's always something to be playing for here in the Pro League. In addition to the fact that even if you come dead last in the pool, or in the division, you can still make playoffs through the play-in. So this year, the playoffs are going to be 10 teams rather than 8. The top 8 or the top 4 from each pool get through, and then we have a play-in bracket which is here, which seems to be single elim. I'm not sure yet whether it's quite single elim, whether it's double elim, or what's going on. Maybe they even make these best of 7s, who knows, that'd be a cool time. But regardless, every team, the bottom 8, or the bottom 8 teams, 4 from each pool, go into this bracket, and then they battle it out to make it to the playoffs to compete against the teams that went through. So it'd be quite interesting if someone's having a really poor time of things. There's still an incentive there to like keep your level as good as it can be and get good practice in, so that when you get into this play-in bracket, you have a chance to make it all the way to qualify for playoffs. So that's an interesting quirk that I'm sure maybe you guys weren't aware of. Division A: OpTic Gaming, Luminosity, Midnight Esports, Evil Geniuses, UYU, Team Reciprocity, Team Spacely, who don't yet have an organisation, Red Reserve. Wow, that's a hell of a pool. When these pools were initially announced, the analysts were jumping towards Division A being the pool of death, right? And it does seem like that on the surface. I definitely think that Division B can compete, though, in some aspects. So we'll go on to have a look at that in just a second here. So Division B: E United, Splice, Envy, E6, 100 Thieves, Heretics, Accelerate, and Overtime. So those are the divisions, and if we go back to some sort of format ideas, every team will play 7 matches before the roster change scenario. So what it seems to me is that we have 4 weeks of action, you see here, ending on February the 28th. The first roster change period is on March the 1st. So they'll play 4 weeks worth of matches, and because they play 22 matches over the entire season, because they play 7 against their own division twice, and then they play 8 against the other division, it looks like they should play 7 matches before the first Pro League roster change period. And then during this period, I'm guessing somewhere in here, we will get a scenario where we have this cross-divisional play. Because you can see these weeks are kind of spread apart here, because we have 4 weeks of Pro League, and then we have Fort Worth before March the 25th. Then we have another week. Then we have like a month off. And I'm guessing this maybe is the cross-divisional play scenario. Because I think after because we have the London event is going to likely be at the start of May right here between week 6 and week 7. But there's a little bit of a gap here, and I'm not sure exactly what's causing it, because the London event, or CWL London, which is pretty much confirmed it's going to be in London this year, is very likely going to be the start of May, and it definitely looks that way looking at the Pro League dates as well. And then, yeah, so it runs all the way until like June the 6th, and then we have Anaheim around here somewhere, and then it finishes off the Pro League. So it's a pretty cool scenario. I'm not really sure what the gap is here between week 6 and week 7. My guess is that during this period it's going to be where the cross-divisional play is happening, and the first 4 weeks will be against their own teams. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm sure some of you guys might be able to let me know whether week 1 and week 2 will be, as is tradition, you'll have the Pool A teams fly out and play for, you know, the first 2 weeks, and then they'll go home, or they'll go back to Vegas if you're Red Reserve and you're living in Vegas, or wherever they're living. The Reciprocity are living in Vegas for sure. And then week 3 and 4, the other division will come out. So that's probably what it's going to be, similar to last year, but not 100% sure. But that's basically how it's looking, and we should have 7 matches every night. Here are the pools then. So Division A stands out. Of course, you've got OpTic Gaming at the top, first at CWL Vegas, then you have Luminosity. Came top 4, didn't have to go through the Pro League qualifiers. You know, the top 4 teams here didn't have to go through the Pro League qualifier, and OpTic get the advantage of having the 4th seed because they, of course, won the event. So LG's an interesting team. Yes, they came top 4, but I'm still not convinced this team is that good. I think they're maybe one roster change away from being championship contending. Right now, especially on their Vegas performance, I'm not convinced. Maybe they've got a lot better online in recent times. It's certainly possible, but I don't see them being too competitive with OpTic in this pool, to be honest. And I'm not really sure where the competition for them comes from, because the bottom 4 teams here, or especially the bottom 3, are super good in Pool A, or Division A. That's what is really the standout factor of this pool, because if you compare the bottom 3 in Division A to the bottom 3 in Division B, you know, there's clearly, it seems to me there's clearly a differential there. But then when you compare the top 4 in Division A to the top 4 in Division B, then there's also a differential the other way as far as I see it, or, you know, especially when you include 100 Thieves into that category. So Midnight, 6-0 at the Pro League qualifier, of course. They had a really good run of things. Beat everyone, beat 100 Thieves, and yeah, superb stuff from them. They also did another tweet yesterday basically confirming that Midnight are not going to be selling this team, which is surprising to me to some extent, but you know, it's also looking really hard for FaZe Clan to find a way into the league now, unless they can buy a team spacely, but it doesn't seem overwhelmingly likely that's going to happen, so maybe not the best news for you FaZe fans. I know that organisation lock is coming up in like a day or so, you know, these teams, organisations really have to get their skates on if they want to lock a spot in the Pro League, and it seems like Midnight are going to be confirmed. So we have Midnight EG. Now, these are all good teams, obviously, but you would expect for Midnight Esports to have some sort of regression to their expected level. I wouldn't really expect these guys to, you know, not come out of nowhere. Like, they're names that we've heard of before. Brack, Lamagod, Jetly, Parzelion, and Envoy, of course. That squad of 5, you know, it's not like they've come out of nowhere. We've heard of some of these names before, but you wouldn't really expect them to be a really competitive Pro League team right in their first season, I would presume. So I don't think they'll be crazy competitive, but I think they'll be pretty damn good. EG were also a very solid squad. They've done very well at the last couple of events, qualified for the Pro League relatively comfortably. UIU are also very good, and there are some matches I'll talk up here in a second between these teams, but honestly, the Pro League this year has so much good talent in, and when you consider the teams that missed out as well, it is really quite remarkable. Reciprocity are here, Team Spacely on that 15-2 map count run to make the Pro League through the final bracket when they were almost down and out, really struggling to get back into the league. They had to make the bracket by beating a Parasites team in Pittsburgh Knights, and then they went on to not lose a single series and barely lose a map to qualify for the Pro League. So they looked really strong towards the end of things. Rumour has it a big organisation is going to look to pick these guys up. And then Red Reserve down here as well, who haven't looked that good as of late, but we know the potential of this team. We know they're championship contenders from what we've seen in World War II. So it's very scary indeed. So I want to go through some previous matchups that these guys have had so far in the season. So LG beat Red Reserve 3-1 at Vegas. UIU have beaten Red Reserve both times they've matched up so far. They beat them 3-2 at Vegas and 3-1 at the Pro League qualifier in the groups. EG beat Red 3-2 at the Pro League qualifier. I'm banging on Red a little bit here because Spacely even beat Red 3-1 as well. EG beat LG 3-2 at Vegas. OpTic, of course, 3-0 Luminosity in the bracket there. EG beat Reciprocity 3-1 at Vegas as well, and LG beat Spacely's team, which was straight ripping at the time, 3-2 at Vegas. So those are just some ideas of where these guys should be matching up. Of course, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with these changes down the line. I honestly think one of the biggest storylines here, of course, is Skrapz versus Wuskin. I can't believe I didn't mention this already, but Wuskin on Reciprocity, Skrapzy on Red Reserve, the twins going at it for, I think, the first time on LAN they will play in the next couple of weeks, which will be a very exciting one. It's a fantastic storyline. And I'm really glad we get to see it, and the COD gods provided us with this pool. So let's move on to Pool B here. So really my summary of Pool A is that the bottom 4 teams are quality, and, well, maybe not UIU, I don't know. They're pretty damn good, but the bottom 3 are really quality compared to these guys. But then the top, like, the teams after OpTic, I'm not sure they'll be as competitive as in Pool B, because we have some ginormous names here. United, Splice are, I would say, pretty comfortably like the 2-3 teams. I don't exactly know where you're going to put them. OpTic, definitely number 1 right now. You can't say anything different to that. We haven't seen that much, of course, since Vegas. It's been a month and a bit. But you can relatively well imply that United and Splice are the guys that put up the best competition to OpTic online or not. So they are both here. And it's crucial to note that E-United actually did beat Splice 3-2 in those losers finals at Vegas. Some people would still say Splice were even maybe the better team after that, but regardless, E-United 1 seed, Splice 2nd seed. Envy came through the Pro League qualifier 6-0, undefeated, didn't lose a series. They actually looked like they could be really competitive with the best teams. E6 were really competent back in like Infinite Warfare time. They're really competitive. I remember they even beat OpTic at one event. I forget what it was. It may have been Stage 1 playoffs or something like that. Not 100% sure, but these names have been competitive and been around for a long time, and now they're back in the league. And with Frosty and Kismet, these new additions, they look really, really solid, man. And the Pro League qualifier this is, they went 5-1. Their only loss was a 5-1 comeback map 5 against Reciprocity. They took down all the other pretty tough competition here. FaZe Clan, Sween. Then we have 100 Thieves and a Heretics, man. Like, Heretics were another super impressive team at the Pro League qualifier. The only series they lost was Envy to a map 5. They beat everyone else, including against G2. They looked really, really solid. And with this practice on LAN against the best teams in the world, you know, they could get even better. And the same thing could be said for Overtime down here as well. Definitely an underrated team. A lot of people are saying coming into this Pro League. Accelerate as well, Fastballers team. You know, these, okay, to be honest, I don't expect too much of these bottom 2 teams, Accelerate and Overtime. I think the other 6 actually could be really good. I think Heretics is maybe getting overlooked. It's maybe I'm just too much of a European fan and I'm not seeing something that other people are. Possible, but I think that Heretics have a lot of talent, and people like Looney and other pros were saying how Heretics arguably looked like the most impressive team at the Pro League qualifier. So I think they're a really good squad. With this practice on LAN against the Americans, they should get even better. And 100 Thieves are pretty damn good as well. They beat Accelerate and Overtime at the Pro League qualifier, of course. So these top 5, I think, are stacked out of control. And honestly, like, I'm looking forward more to watching Division B than I am to Division A. Like, there's some crazy matchups here, Skrapz versus Wuskin, but these top 5, I don't really know how they get separated right now. I think all of these could have super crazy matches against each other. Maybe United and Splice are the clear-cut 1 and 2, but maybe these middle 4, Envy, 600 Thieves and Heretics, should be a fun time, and you never know what Profizi and Fastballer can come up with, and Whalers and the French guys as well. Definitely dark horses in this pool, because, you know, they were actually really, really solid at the Pro League qualifier, and their run was definitely overlooked. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think is the division of death? Would you agree with how I've characterized them? I'll go through some other matches right here. So E-United beat 100 Thieves 3-1 at Vegas. Splice 3-1 XLG, or Accelerate at Vegas as well. We already talked about how E-United had bettered Splice. Accelerate beat in Overtime 3-2 at the Pro League qualifier. 100 Thieves 3-1 XLG and Overtime, as we said. And Envy 3-1 Heretics. So I mentioned a few of those matches, but that kind of gives you a decent idea of where these guys stack up. Not all of the results, I'm pretty sure, but I went through some of them. So anyway, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Charges acquired.